I'm here with my guest, Brent Maxwell from Dolphin Group Realty, and he is an expert in the area of Detroit, Michigan. Now, if you're not aware, Detroit, Michigan has kind of had some financial problems. Actually, I think they just declared bankruptcy. And if you look, you'll find a lot of cheap and inexpensive properties up there. However, just because a property is not priced very high does not mean it's a great deal. So I want Brent. What he's going to do is he's going to give us the lowdown of what's going on in Detroit. Brent, welcome to the show. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Great to be here.
All right. Why don't you give us a little background about yourself, what you do, and how you're doing it?
Okay. Well, I own a brokerage in Detroit, and we focus on investment properties. I've been in the real estate business here full time for 10 years, um, and we also do property management and a little bit of what I like to call traditional or retail real estate, which is helping people find a house for them to live in with their family, or helping family individual homeowners sell their house to other individuals. The typical what you think of when you think of real estate brokerages. We do a very small amount of that, but primarily our business is investment properties and property management.
Okay, now what are you seeing right now in Detroit as far as investment properties and investors? Is the market? How is that everything going up there?
It's exciting. It's an exciting time to be here. We lived through the rough lean years from 2007 through 2000, well, basically 2012. The big crash of September 15th, 2008, and all of the associated wreckage that came with that. To use an overused cliche, perfect storm of negativity there. We've seen a resurgence now of interest in the city, Detroit proper, as well as the Detroit metro area, by not only locals but by out of state, national, and a lot of international investors are very very keen on the Detroit market as a place to invest in income property, rental property, even to buy and hold properties. Just we have investors who come in and buy them, and they board them up and they sit on them waiting for appreciation. So we've got a lot of excitement going on here in the Detroit market, and prices are now starting to go up. The market is definitely in its emergence phase.
Nice, nice. Now, if somebody was looking to invest in Detroit and they were not from the Detroit area and knew very little about it, what advice would you give them? Where to start? What areas to look at? What along those lines?
Well, as far as areas go, we have investors who look for very, very high cash flow, high ROI, and ones that are more conservative, looking for growth or appreciation potential. And basically, the thing about Detroit is, even in good areas, you have bad blocks. And in what people would consider lesser areas or less desirable areas and zip codes, you have really nice sections. Detroit is very block by block. See, what happened with the Detroit market is, back in the 50s, Detroit had 2 million people living in the city,
Uh huh.
and the housing to accommodate that amount of population. Well, over the last 60 years, that population has dropped and dropped and dropped, and has finally stabilized at right about 700,000. So you're looking at about 35–40% of the population that the city once had, it has now, which means you've got a lot of unused housing stock. Now, over the years, those houses have been turned into land. Basically, there's a lot of what we call urban prairie, and this is not a phenomenon that's exclusive to Detroit. Other Rust Belt industrial cities experience this phenomenon, such as Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, especially Erie, Pennsylvania, Cleveland, the whole nine yards. Actually, I live near the downtown area of the city, about 2.5 miles out of downtown in Detroit, and I have pheasants in my yard. They come and visit. There's an area of about 3 miles by 3 miles just to the east of my house that a local investor has bought all of the vacant lots and is planting trees in them to make a tree farm. So you've got a lot of green space. Size wise, the city of Detroit is 139 square miles, which is huge for cities,
Yeah.
especially with that population of 700,000. But if you do the math, it actually works out to a population density of about the same as Phoenix, Arizona. The difference being is that in Phoenix, Arizona, you've got a lot of decent sized houses, bigger houses on large lots. Here in the city of Detroit, most of the lots are typically 30 or 35 feet wide by about 100 feet long. So you've got very narrow, almost row house type lots. Um, and what ends up happening is you have blocks where there's a few houses on the block, and then the rest of the house is just land or vacant houses. And that's a problem. The land isn't a problem, but the vacant houses are.
Yeah.
So so what happens is I don't know how familiar you are with Dan Gilbert. He's a big investor here in Detroit. He owns Quicken Loans, which is a large lending company.
Mm-hmm.
Are they nationwide? Or they are nationwide, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So Dan Gilbert and his team have committed over the next 10 years to either fill or destroy the 90,000 plus vacant houses in Detroit as a private investor. He's got over $1 billion, I think 1.3 is the current figure, of money invested into the downtown and midtown Detroit areas, in mostly in apartment buildings or in office buildings or high rises.
Yeah.
Um, but that's a very small, that's probably 5% of Detroit. The other 95% is in essence, what most people look at as being like city neighborhoods, or they're almost suburbs of the downtown.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
That's a lot of properties that are empty.
Yes, yes. So you can't. I know that real estate is local, and that's one of the old cliches. It is all about local and it's all about location. I think in Detroit more so. I think you'd be okay going into city like we brought up Phoenix, going into Maricopa County and just buying sight unseen a property. You'd probably have better luck that way
Yeah.
than doing it in Detroit. In Detroit, you really have to have someone on the ground who's local, who can at least go to the area and check out the area. Because you can have a house that looks great, and two doors down are three burned out houses, and you don't want to buy on that block.
Okay.
You
Yeah,
know, we
that
can
makes
fix
sense.
we can fix a bad house. I can fix any bad house. I can't fix a bad block.